Robert, I want to talk about universal credit now. Alarmingly, the total number of universal credit claimants in this country has hit a record high, 8 million. That's compared to 6.9 million this time last year. And something like 3.7 million of them have been signed off work forever. So you've got the best part of 4 million are getting universal credit for the rest of their lives. They never have to work. 8 million generally. Universal credit, of course, is a benefit welfare payment that you can get even if you are in work. You cannot be in work sometimes, but if you've got work and you're not earning enough, it's supposed to help you. Now, I do believe that the Excellent Centre for Migration Control has dug deep into these figures. So this is all down to you. Excellent work yet again. You have unearthed that amid these already shocking figures, 1 million, well, but let's just round it up, it's 1298, 1,300,000 foreign nationals are claiming universal credit. And that astronomical figure includes 174,299 people with refugee or humanitarian status. In other words, asylum seekers waiting for a decision. A further 214,000 claimants have indefinite leave to remain, so they can stay here forever, but they're claiming it as well. So these are successful asylum seekers. So my point about this, and by the way, this time 2 years ago, foreign nationals claiming universal credit amounted to 928,000 thereabouts. So it's alarmingly up on what it was 2 years ago. And effectively what this adds up to is asylum seekers come here, you know, we put them in these hotels, we give them 50 quid a week, we give them free food, free lawyers, free dentists, free doctors, etc., etc. So we pay for everything. We completely underwrite their lives. They don't have to pay for anything. British taxpayers fund their entire existences. So now then they get to the point where they qualify for benefits. Sometimes they get to the point where they're allowed to stay indefinitely. And it turns out that we continue to pay for these people because many of them don't work. They just claim benefits and they get universal credit for the rest of their lives. So these people are coming to this country. The word must go around in Syria and Eritrea and Afghanistan and all these places. It must be, hey, you want to get yourself to Britain. It's amazing. Because you get there and then the British citizens, they just pay for you for the rest of your life. It's amazing. I mean, this is what's going on. It's just breathtaking.
That is exactly what's happening, Kevin. It is an absolutely crazy state of affairs. And I think now that the DWP have kind of been pushed kicking and screaming into actually having to publish these numbers by immigration status, and we are able to see the number of refugees, so-called refugees, and those on humanitarian routes that are actually claiming universal credit, we can see those hidden costs that were associated with the illegal migration crisis that have for too long kind of been, once an individual's had their asylum application approved, they've kind of been pushed in to the general populace, and their benefit claims and their dependency on the state has been hidden within the overall welfare bill. When it comes to foreign nationals as a whole, we're probably looking at a bill of between 11 and 15 billion pounds every single year now, just paying to people that are not even citizens of our own country and not even British citizens. And the question has to be asked, what do we actually get for this money? Effectively, we are paying to individuals to come here and live a life of rally. I think it's an incredibly lopsided deal. Of course, it's all being done, and these kind of settled status positions that are being held by these individuals are given for the sake of integration and to make these individuals feel like they're a part of society. But I would argue that if they're coming to this country and then they are not making any economic contribution, then they really should not have the right to stay here indefinitely, because British people across the country are facing huge pressures on the moment on their household budgets. It really is inexcusable for us to be having to pay for 1.3 million citizens of other nations to also live here. When it comes to the asylum seekers as well, we also need to recognise that once they've had their cases approved, the economic participation rate of so-called refugees is woefully low. It's between 30 and 40% of those that actually are given refugee status actually go on to work, and many of them are working in incredibly low-wage, low-skilled jobs. So this idea that somehow we should actually, and this is actually something that you do hear from the open border advocates, the idea that refugees are somehow bringing their skills and bringing assets to this country that we simply are lacking and in short supply of, is absolutely for the birds. And I think these figures show it. The proportion of refugees and those on humanitarian routes that are actually claiming universal credit is a fifth or more of those that are actually on that route. And this is something that we simply can't sustain. But so long as those boats keep coming, so long as we keep approving about 50% of applications, we will continue to see that number grow, and we will continue to see more money being taken out of the back pockets of hardworking British men and women to pay for these individuals to live a life of rally. It is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, so the headline here is, it's bad enough that we have to spend billions and billions and billions funding these people when they're seeking asylum, when they put their application in to be able to stay here. As you say, a ludicrous number of them are approved, 50%. It used to be worse than that. It used to be up in the 70%. We let more migrants, more asylum seekers stay than any other country in the world, significantly more. So we're a soft touch. But the headline, as I say, is British people thought, we have to pay for them while they're waiting for their asylum decision. When they are allowed to stay, off they go into society, join the British community and go off to work, and then they start paying for themselves. Well, the headline here, as I say, is oh no, they don't. Many of them, well, more than 1 million of them here, we continue to pay for. It's jaw-dropping.
I think, and the argument always seems to be, and this is something that you do genuinely see people that believe that we should be doing more and taking more asylum seekers, is, well, these people have skills that we simply don't have in Britain. Well, we now have actual government data which shows that hundreds of thousands of them are doing very little apart from posing a long-term cost on the British public. I would argue that actually it's equally egregious that we have a very large number of people that normally came here to work or to make some form of economic contribution, that once they've hit that 5-year point and been given settled status, they've decided to actually really sack off making any contribution to the countries that they've decided to move to, and instead just to begin to become a burden on the state. We also need to look at what's coming down the track. Of course, under the Boris Johnson government, we saw large numbers of people coming on very low-skilled, low-wage routes. They, in 5 years' time, will begin to become eligible for benefits as well, and thus the rate will...
It's a nightmare, Robert. It's a nightmare.